Hey, it's your old cousin Jack with another episode of Wood Carving Weekly, and I've got something to share. So, this week we'll talk some more about selecting woods for carving. And we talked a little bit last time about the Yanka hardness scale, but there are other considerations to be thinking about. We'll also share some big news from Helvie Knives. We'll go chipping away at some tools and supplies, and I have some knowledge nuggets, follow-ups from previous stories that friends have shared and reached out to tell me more about. We'll also spin around YouTube to see what we can see, the newest maybe carving videos that are available. So buckle up, let's get started. So let's talk about selecting different types of wood for your carving projects. One of the considerations is functionality, right? It depends. If you're carving a spoon, for example, it's a functional kitchen utensil, and you want something that's going to be effective and it's going to last and hold up to various foods that come into contact with it, as well as water when it's being washed. And so when selecting woods for spoon making, carvers usually select something harder than basswood. Very often they use walnut, maple, applewood, cherry wood, various hardwoods that are really good for spoon carving and very attractive and have some durability. So that's certainly a consideration. Now, you may not choose those types of woods if you're carving figures or if you're doing chip carving. But functionality is an important consideration. Another one is toxicity. Yes, some types of wood have some toxic elements that can irritate eyes and skin, respiratory. There are a number of woods that you might want to steer clear of. And that's also a consideration, especially if you're using it for a spoon or serving bowl, as well as when you're working on the different pieces that you're making. If you're using power carving, for example, there's dust flying around that can irritate your eyes or lungs or what have you. And I have a link that I'm going to share with you in the comments section down below and in the description of this video that will take you to a toxicity chart. It gives you more information about different species of woods and what sort of toxicity or irritations might come from them. As well, I'll be sharing links from all the different videos and resources that I talk with you about. They'll be in the description below as well. So let's talk about another consideration, workability. So workability refers to, how easy or difficult it might be to take a piece of wood and reach the final form, to shape it, to cut it, to finish it, and get to that final stage. Now, we talked about the hardness scale last time, and there's a situation where you could have a wood that's soft, preferable for carving, but has poor workability. So, for example, balsa wood is very soft, probably too soft, because the balsa wood doesn't tend to hold details very well, doesn't have decent properties for finishing either. The grain in the wood is not sufficient for what you would want. Another wood that's relatively soft, but can be, let's say, scored poor for workability, are certain species of pine, because pine can be full of knots, and those knots are no fun for carving. There are also problems with resin content in pine and other fir trees as well. And that resin content can gum up your tools and make workability poor. So workability is certainly something you'll want to take into consideration, along with functionality and toxicity, when you're selecting woods for your projects. Another consideration is, how does it look? Some woods have beautiful grain that you really want to show off and showcase, and some woods, not so much. And that's where your opportunity to choose different ways to finish them can come into play. So there you go. Check out the link to learn more about wood toxicity. Oh, there's big news from Helvie Knives. Holly Smithson recently posted some information indicating that it's time to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Smithson family running the Helvie Knives business. And to mark the occasion, they have some 35th anniversary gear that's available on the Helvie Knives website. And there will soon be limited edition Helvie Knives available for the 35th anniversary. Rich and Holly are going to make 200 knives, 100 rough outs, and 100 detail knives. Each knife will be numbered and comes with a medallion that's laser etched with the same number as the knife. The detail knife will have a maple handle, and the rough out knives will have cherry wood handles. Holly says stay tuned to the Helvie Knives website for more news coming soon about what date these knives will become available for folks to purchase. So yes, take a look at the Helvie Knives website and keep track. So let's continue talking about tools. I want to share one of my favorite places to buy tools and supplies, and that would be chippingaway.com. So Chipping Away is a family-run Canadian business, and they've been serving the needs of woodcarvers for more than 25 years. They have more than 4,000 woodcarving related items available on their web store. And what I really like about Chipping Away is that you have opportunities to buy tools individually or in a set. And I really like that you can buy the tools individually because that's how I like to buy them. And I recommend that's probably the best way to buy tools, but not always. They have a variety of tools from some very popular manufacturers like Deep Holler Knives, FlexCut, OCCT, and they have file hand tools as well. So if you haven't ever ordered anything, you might want to just check out their website and see what they have. They also sell basswood if you're in the market for that. I've purchased a number of different items from them over the years, and I can tell you I've had good experience with the delivery and the service, and I feel like their prices are pretty reasonable. So that's chippingaway.com. I'll have a link for you down in the description below. All right, let's share some knowledge nuggets. We've gotten now to our 6th episode, and I want to tell you that back in episode number 4, we shared some information about tagua nut carving. Mark Spurk was doing a power carving on a tagua nut. And I also shared some trivia about tagua nuts and the fact that in World War I, the tagua nuts were used to make buttons for the U.S. Army uniforms. But later they were replaced by plastic buttons. Well, I heard from Clive Green from the UK. Clive reached out and he said, well, one of the reasons that the Army moved away from the tagua nut buttons was because rats were eating them. So that was one of the reasons they decided to move on to plastic. Thanks, Clive, for that little tidbit. I also wanted to do a follow-up from last week. We talked last week about Harold Enlow and the fact that he made and manufactured a lot of inferior tools for what he called the Harold Enlow Inferior Tool Company. And Harold, in addition to being a legendary carver, was also a highly skilled blacksmith. Tim Peavy, who posted the videos that we shared last week, Tim said, he reached out and he said, I've lost count of how many inferior tools Harold made for me or that he just gave to me. And Tim said one night he was at the carving club meeting, the local meeting where Harold would attend. And Tim was talking to Harold because Tim wanted to do some bowl carving and some spoon carving as well. And he was interested in see if Harold could make an adze that would help Tim with his carving. Well, he approached Harold about it, and Harold said, yeah, I've never made an adze before. We'll work it out and see what we can do. The following week, when Tim walked into the carving club meeting, Harold came over with a perfect adze that he made, with what Tim said is a perfect handle and razor sharp. Tim says that's his favorite tool that Harold made, and he enjoys it very much. So let's take a spin around YouTube and talk about what's available out there for you. There's a new carving from the Werewolf Whittler. And this takes us to the UK, and to Wales specifically. The Werewolf Whittler is a young woman who does a lot of tutorial videos, and in this situation she's got a step-by-step tutorial that's a knife-only project on carving an acorn. This appears to be a beginner-friendly video, and the quality is good. There's a voiceover that she does after she's finished with the carving piece, and then there's some soft music in the background. Really nice and well done. I encourage you to take a look at the Werewolf Whittler and this acorn tutorial. Well, up next, we're going to talk about Crosscut Carvings. We shared some information in an earlier episode where Jonathan was doing a review of the tater skin whittling knife, a pocket knife from, I think it was Rough Rider. Well, Jonathan has posted the first in a series of videos from the Big Stone Gap Carve-In. It's the 12th annual show from Big Stone Gap, Virginia. And Jonathan has shared with us this first segment where he's showing us some of the carvings at the show, talking with some of the attendees. There's a brief interview with Alan Goodman, who's also in attendance there. And this is the first of, I guess, a series. And what Jonathan told me was that he's got some other carving shows, videos from the same show coming up where he will share additional interviews that he conducted, show us some of the pieces from the competition at the Big Stone Gap show, and also a lot more wood carving. So there you go. Check out Crosscut Carvings. See what happened at the Big Stone Gap Carve-In. Well, Van Kelly has come out with a new video about how to select the proper carving knife. So in this video, it's pretty quick. It's a 5-minute video where Van goes through a series of 4 different knives. He talks a little bit about the purpose, the use of each of those knives based on the blade design and what have you. All of these are flat grind knives, and he says that's his preference to use flat grind. And he talks a little bit about, what you want to think about and what you want to consider when you're selecting your whittling knife. So take a look. Van's new video that came out just a day or so ago. Well, the Carving and Coffee Show has returned. Doug Linker and LaCasse got together for episode 81 of the Coffee and Carving Show. They spent much of the time catching up, talking about what they did during the summer, what they've been up to, and there's some additional information in this video for you. So, for example, Alec is working on a new book. It should be available sometime in the spring. He says it's about carving faces, so certainly keep your eyes out for that. Doug talks a little bit about his recent camping trip, and I think he posted a video about carving a stick. And near the end of this episode, Doug talks about the most common complaint he hears from other carvers. So check that out and find out what's that most common complaint that Doug Linker hears about. Folks, I want to thank you all for your support. And if you want to help, please hit that like button below the video. If you're not subscribed yet, I would appreciate if you would subscribe. It always helps. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.